In this tutorial, we'll be showing you how to do the initial setup of the Parkertronic PT200 Store Management and ePOS system. So let's get started. When you did your installation, you should see that there's a Parkertronic icon put onto your desktop. So if you double click that, and the application should load. And the first screen that will come up is the trial notification screen. This will show you the number of days left on your trial. It also gives you the option to close the application, enter the license key if you have one, or continue with the trial. If you press the license key button, this will bring up the license key screen, and here you can enter the license and press go, and that would license the application. In our case, we're just going to continue with the trial. The next screen that comes up is the select mode of operation screen. This enables you to select a live or a training mode for the data that you're going to put in. Obviously, live mode is when you're running the application in a real world environment, and training when you're training staff or learning how to use the system. For now, we're going to concentrate on the live. Here we have the login screen. Now this is an initial installation. It gives you the admin login by default, and the passcode for the admin login is 4 nines, so you can use the keypad or keyboard to enter the 4 nines, or alternatively you can use the virtual keypad and enter your passcode in there. If you notice, it also gives you the passcode blank. So if we press the forward button, this takes you through to the main menu, and the main menu screen is where you access all the application options. For this tutorial, we're going to concentrate on initial setup, so we go to the setup menu, and here it shows the various things you can set up: the peripherals, multi-lane, merchant, store, system setup, etc. So if we start at the top with system setup, this screen basically gives you the information relating to your installation. Give the version number, the next barcode number, which in this case is the initial barcode number that's going to generate, the last receipt number, etc. In our case, it's still an initial installation, so they're all set to 0. The install date, whether the application is licensed, and here once again you can access the license screen, and the mode selection at startup. Now the screen that came up asking you if you to select a live or training mode, this actually turns that screen on or off. In this case it's still turned on. We'll leave it on for now, and this button saves any changes that you make to this screen. So pressing that will take you back, save the information and take you back to the setup menu. So the next thing we want to set up is the store, and this is the store information, the particular store that you're putting this installation into. So we can change the store name. All this information is entered by default when you do an initial installation, so we'll call it My Store, and pressing tab will set you forward through the various fields, or you can select them using the mouse button. Down at the bottom of the screen you have the language selection. There are 6 languages currently in the application. We're going to leave it on English, as I don't speak any other language. And below that you have the currency. This currently has the 2,500 currencies available throughout the world, using a 3-letter identifier for each one. EUR is the default for the euro, but in our case we're going to select GBP, and you'll see that loads the pound symbol as well. At the top of this screen we have the store and till IDs. The store ID would be where if you have multiple stores, you can select a new store number for that, and if you've got multiple lanes in your store, then you could select what lane this is. There's also a selection for the start of day to record the float, so you can turn that on or off, and that would prompt you to enter for a float when you enter the ePOS screen. Once again, clicking that button would save these changes, and you'll see there's a back button which takes you back to the menu, so we will save them and bring them back up just to show you. Pressing the back button takes you back as well. You'll see that all these types of screen will have a back button up here, whereas other screens will use the round close button. Next information to enter is the merchant information. Now this information is what is shown on purchase orders, as opposed to the store, which is more the receipt type information. So you can have multiple stores but have one merchant identity. So you would put the particular merchant ID information in here. Once again, enter save to save the information. The next selection is the tax rate setup, and here you can turn on or off the tax registration. So if you're tax registered, you would turn it on and enter a tax number into there. Here below that you could see the 3 default tax rates that are set into the system. You can add tax rates or edit the current tax rates or delete tax rates with a series of buttons here. So if we reload the list, because you'll notice that we've got the update button on there, so if we reload the list we get an add button there. So if we enter a new tax rate, so say 17.5%, we then give it a description. It's best to give it a description that suits the actual tax rate, but you could put Bob's tax rate in there if you wanted. You just got to remember that's the rate that it would be, so it's easier to put the actual value in there as well. So if you press add, you'll see that adds the tax rate here. So we can edit that tax rate if we wish. So if we then press update, you'll see that that updates the tax rate information. You can delete the tax rate, and that will throw a prompt asking you if you're sure, which we are, and that will then delete the tax rate. Once again, pressing save saves the information and takes you back to the setup menu. Next is peripheral setup, and this is where you switch on or off the various peripheral devices that you have connected to this particular till. So you have receipt printer, label printer, cash drawer, scanner, pin entry device, which we currently don't have connected, but we will be adding those in the future, and the customer display. So it's simple enough to turn on a peripheral, switch it on. You'll see that the drop down list is displayed. You select your type, and then in the case of the receipt printer you can then enter the starting receipt number if you're not starting from 1, and there are 2 lines of receipt footer at the bottom of a receipt, or printed at the bottom of a receipt, which you can alter as you wish. So we just change that, and then once again press save. And all the various peripherals have their appropriate drop down boxes. Customer display is slightly different in that it gives you, not only does it give you the type of customer display, but the communications type and the port that you can use. And similar to the receipt setup, there is a customer display message that you could set up here. We're going to turn that off for now because we don't have a customer display attached, and it will try and communicate with it, throw a series of errors. So we will then go forward, and the next selection is multi-lane. So if you've got multiple lanes, you can select this and enter, say that it's a multi-lane system, so it is a multi-lane till. At the moment this one's not set to a master, so it is basically trying to connect to a master using the IP address that you would enter here. So you could enter an IP address in here, although we don't actually have a master connected, and that would then change that to yes once it's connected to the master. If this till is the master till itself, you would switch on the master switch, and that reverts back to a local host, in which case it will use the IP address of the local machine, and here you would enter the slave tills. We're going to cover all that in a future tutorial. For now we're just going to go back to the main menu.